So, but I can actually start with the check-in. That is what is giving energy this week. And I have to be very, very honest. And for me, it has been today the sunshine. You know, it has been such a long time since we saw the sun, since I saw the sun always in Stockholm. And it really meant something to me. I just felt that, wow, I have missed the sunshine so much. You know, April has been so dark, rainy, cold, dark. Sun, yes, was wonderful. Otherwise, it gives you energy to follow what is going on in the learning teams and to see the videos and the presentations and the comments and the sharing. And so that is really, really super fun to see that we're kicking off and that the communication is going on. Mm-hmm. What about you?
I would say it's the same for me. What is giving me energy right now is to see this course starting. Seeing all of you joining Slack, seeing your reflections, your presentations, starting to get to know you a little bit. So that's my check-in.
Yeah. And what about, I don't see the check-ins now, you know, to write in we could voice some of your check-ins.
Mm-hmm. And you will see now that the screen looks a little bit weird because you see all the different windows, but it's for us to be able to read the check-ins. So what is giving Alex Newman energy this week is the spring arriving in Copenhagen. He's based in Denmark, where I live, and working with fun projects with great colleagues. Then we have Stine. She's changing jobs, so that's giving her energy, starting new on Monday. And I am really excited and full of energy when thinking about that. Then we have Katharina, of course, starting the course. Yay!
Yay!
That's what it's giving her energy, but also her team. Her bosses got married last week in New York. Oh,
cool!
Congratulations!
Yep.
We have Luke as well, being invited by Google to an exclusive event in Dublin. Wow! Congratulations! Is that open? Could we join? Then Charlele, and let me know if I'm not saying your name properly. I've been seeing it around. I'm like, how would you say that? Charlele?
Charlie.
A new business idea taking form with good potential. Teammates on the horizon. Great. Then Simon just started doing yoga for the first time ever.
Wow.
Great way of getting energy, definitely. And yes,
Charlie. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Charlie, for the clarification.
Yeah.
And then Stephanie, right now, your colleagues is what is giving you energy.
Nice. Is there one more coming in?
I don't know. I don't think so.
Okay.
So should we go back to our presentation?
Yes.
And look a little bit more into what are we going to do today?
Yes. Actually, we should say something about ourselves. We have, I don't know if you've seen it, but we did a short video in the announcement channel. But what might be good to know, I don't know, about me, is that, well, I work at Hyper Island and do what I can to support both students, staff and clients to create and sustain efficient and well-being working teams. And doing that, I spend also a lot of time with coaching the leaders and the team members to do that. So sometimes I can run workshops and so, but most of the time it's about, and what I'm more and more passionate about is the self-awareness and self-leadership, because everyone is always having an impact on your surroundings. So it has a lot to do with the impact that you have on other people and to be aware of that and work on that. So
thank you.
Thank you. What about you?
I'm Ines, and what I do here is basically I'm a program manager. I've been a program manager for 2 years, and I work with the school. I have a class of 42 students, and my challenge is to create an effective team out of them, so they can learn from each other and achieve amazing results. So that's my background. I'm also Spanish. You might notice by my accent. Cool.
Enough about us.
Enough about us. let's look a little bit into what are we going to do today. Since today is the first webinar, we're going to have a brief introduction on who are you, who is in this webinar, who is in this Slack channel, so you can build the community already a little bit. Then we're going to go directly into the session of creating effective teams with Alex Newman. And he will go through some of the models and some of the theories that he thinks are most relevant for you to take into consideration. Then we're going to open up to an open discussion and ask you to think about what challenges do you face on your daily basis when creating effective teams, and have a discussion with Alex involved in it. Then when that session is done and we have talked about the specific topic of this week, we're going to go again to look into how can you run workshops, tips for making the most of the course during the next 6 weeks. So a little bit of more general information again. And then finally, we're just going to wrap up and give you a couple of reminders to make sure that you're on track for the rest of the week.
Yeah, cool. So let's have a look at who is actually in this this course. And hopefully you have seen a lot of videos going. And if you haven't, so please do. And if you haven't posted your own yet, so please do that. The names that you might have seen, you see them here, and it's a wonderful diversity, and you come from different countries and from different companies, and here on that note we see where people are coming from who are joining this course, and obviously we see that it's a lot of participants coming from Europe, and we have England, Sweden, Denmark, Germany, but also Brazil, Canada, Colombia, and yes, it's diverse, and would like to encourage you to see that as an amazing network to start to get to know, and also to use Slack to discuss what are the similarities that you see when you are working with people and to build teams, and what are the differences, and how to cope, and it's amazing.
It's an asset. Definitely.
Yes, it definitely is. And also, we talked about in the learning kit this about openness and trust, and on that note, also to actually, share a lot and take this opportunity. And you have both different and similar roles. We have quite a few project managers, creative strategists, and marketing consultants, and that you are all in different ways busy with leadership in.
A lot of leaders in this group. When we went through the survey, we could see that you have a lot of different degrees of responsibility over teams. Yes. So that's great.
Absolutely. And also representing different industries. And it's really a broad range from, yes, you can see for yourself that there are a lot of different branches involved here. So with all that said, wow, this can be very, very, very good. It's about taking the chances here to develop all these connections and this network.
Why are they here?
Yes.
This was one of the questions in the survey as well.
Exactly.
Super interesting understanding why to anchor in a purpose.
Yes. And you can read also, so I don't have to read all of this, but of course it's a lot about improving and getting inspired and learn from and strengthen and build new skills. And so hopefully you feel that you are on the right course with us here.
Yeah. And do you learn a little bit more from each other as well? An overview of it. So how does our webinar work usually? As I said before, this is the first webinar we have, so it's a little bit different. We have a little bit more of general information. But usually what you will find is always a host to the webinar, either Luis or me or the two of us together, depending on the week. We will be hosting the webinar, moderating the conversation, taking you through the different steps. Then we always will have a guest on every webinar to talk in depth about a topic. in this webinar specifically about creating effective teams. We will invite you through Slack to, at the beginning of the week, to share questions with us, share questions that you have for the webinar, because that will help us steer a little bit where does the webinar need to go. And then finally, basically, the communication is going to be written on the chat window, the one that you have to use for the check-in. There's where you can post your questions, you can ask, or you can, if you want to take the microphone, you can also ask for it. We will at some point maybe invite you to elaborate on a written reply. So then we will hand over the microphone to you and you will be able to have a conversation. Cool. So without further ado, let's start this session about creating effective teams. For that, as I said before, we will have Alex Newman joining in, Head of Learning Design here at Hyper Island, and actually one of the persons most involved in creating this online course. So warm welcome. He's going to walk you through a couple of slides, and if you have any questions, you can post them on the chat, and he will take them at the end. So Alex, are you there with us?
Yes, do you hear me?
Yes. Loud and
Fantastic.
clear. I'm going to mute ourselves.
Great.
Mute.
Fantastic. So you're muted. I've got the microphone and we're off. So Ines, if you want to just click to the next slide, I start by saying a big hello to everybody. It's nice to meet you all virtually, start to connect with you via your check-ins. Like I said, I'm getting lots of energy this week from the fact that spring feels like it's arriving, and all of the different things that I'm engaged in with lots of my colleagues at Hyper Island. I'll say a few words about me before I launch into talking about creating effective teams. As Ines said, I work as Head of Learning Design at Hyper Island. I am based in Copenhagen these days, although I've been based in our headquarters in Stockholm for the past 5 years. And a few images to sort of tell you some things about me. So that first one next to my face is a picture from 2011. That's my first day at Hyper Island. So I've been around and working with Hyper Island in different forms, in different ways for going on 6 years. So a long time. And in that time, I've had the privilege to wear different hats and be involved in lots of different things. But going over to that next photo, that smiley, happy, energetic group of people. Oh, sorry, the next photo. I said the photo of that wonderful group. You know, I work with people, with groups, with creative processes, and with group processes. So that's a picture of my digital media class that I was a program manager for in 2013. But I think the sort of energy and the feeling of that photo could be representative of lots of the stuff that I do. These days, I work a lot more with our online courses. So in courses like these ones, and with different organizational and business clients that we have, helping with organizational transformations, helping businesses learn and grow. And my passion is really about unlocking progress within people, within organizations. If we go along the bottom really quickly, I'm a geek for podcasts and radio. So that's me sort of looking into my favorite podcast, or one of them, which is called Radio Lab. If anybody else is geeky about podcasts, love to geek out. I'm also an avid cyclist. That's me and my partner doing a cycling trip. And then the last photo is from a global conference of an NGO that I work with called CISV, which does social justice and peace education, which is another passion area of mine. Okay, that tells you a little bit about me. What I want to get into today, and for the next 20 or so minutes, is to dig deeper into the main theme of this week, which is creating effective teams, that foundation for what are the pillars, the foundations, the key ideas that we need to bring with us when we think about creating effective teams in the digital age, but also some principles that have been around and tried and true for a long, long time. And maybe you've seen it already, and if not, I would definitely encourage you to check it out. This article, which is in this week's Learning Kit, called What Google Learned from Its Quest to Build the Perfect Team. And the article tells the story of this big project that Google undertook to try to figure out what makes a team really, really effective, what makes our best teams our best, and what stands in the way of teams that don't manage to really fly. And Google, being very engineer-driven, they did a big data-driven research project. They analyzed analytics from hundreds of different teams. They put lots of money and resources, as they have, into this. And what they found, the secret, which they got written up in the New York Times and they talked about a lot. If you click to the next slide, Ines, the thing that they landed in was that actually psychological safety, more than anything else, was critical, was the condition that made teams work well. And in a way, that was an aha moment. But in another way, this is something that's been around and been known for a long, long time about what makes teams thrive, what makes groups of people come together and work well together. And of course, the challenge, a little bit sort of where this article leaves off, is to say, so this was the big revelation, but establishing that criteria is in its nature kind of difficult to do. There's no simple algorithm that can establish a strong foundation of trust and openness and safety in a team. So as much as Google sort of uncovered this, they didn't necessarily come with the perfect solution to how do you do that. But that's a big part of what we want to talk about. So moving on from sort of Google's insight and into a particular framework and model that we at Hyper Island, that we hold as one that we believe is really valuable and really useful when approaching any kind of team leadership, team development. And it's a model that comes from a researcher called Susan Whelan, and it was in the Learning Kit. So this is something that, again, hopefully you've seen and had a chance to dig into a little bit. I thought that today we would dig a little bit deeper into this, sort of open up some conversation about it, and in particular, focus on what kind of leadership supports teams at different stages of that development journey to be safe, to be secure, and to make progress toward the next stage of development. So what we'll do is we'll go through each stage, spend a little bit of time on it, and then talk a little bit about the different leadership that is needed. And as I go through, the guideline that I'd like to give you as you sort of listen to me talk and you see these slides is to think about your own team currently. Think about other teams that you've been part of. And think about sort of where you recognize the different criteria, the different characteristics that we'll describe, and also think about perhaps your own leadership or leadership that you've seen in other leaders, perhaps great examples or not so effective ones. And as Ines said before, if you want to jump in on the chat with sort of questions or even build-ons, then feel free as we go through. So we go to the next slide, and we start with that first stage. So dependency and inclusion. This is a new team coming together, and the starting point for a group developing. And this is the stage. Sometimes we use the metaphor of a cocktail party to describe it, because it's the stage where members in a team are very tentative, they're very polite, they're very concerned and putting their energy and attention into being liked by others or giving thought to how am I perceived by others. You won't see conflict erupting in this stage because people are holding their maybe their true colors or their true opinions close, not maybe stepping out and taking risks, not showing themselves too much. Will demonstrate a high dependency on the leader. So that's a clue as to what kind of leadership is needed. People will really look to the designated formal leader for what do we do and what's expected of me. And deep down, people are asking themselves in this stage, is this a team? Is this a group that I want to be part of? Do I feel comfortable here? Am I in? Am I out? So you don't really, at this stage, even necessarily have full commitment. So this is the stage where really it's kind of things are happening on the surface. And what Susan Whelan also says is that at this stage, you don't actually see that much meaningful work getting done. People will engage in what she calls pseudo work. So they might sort of they sort of simulate work, but because people aren't yet quite comfortable enough to share their true opinions or show themselves or bring their full talents or perspectives to the table, you can't really get the most out of people in terms of getting work done. So this is that first stage, and it's not one that necessarily passes quickly, and we'll talk about that as we go forward. But if we ask the question, what kind of leadership then do we need? So if you, for instance, recognize this, I think this is a stage that probably all of us can recognize from one point or another, because we've all been together with new teams. And if we click to the next slide and ask the question, well, what kind of leadership is going to support a team at this stage, if it's a new team or a team that's sort of staying in that very surface zone, stage one? So leaders at this stage, it's all about helping members feel included and safe. So creating that first foundation of, again, psychological safety. How can we make people feel like that they're included, they're engaged, they're safe? Groups need a lot of direction and clear structure. So leadership at this stage needs to be directive, confident, organized, helping members see what's expected of them. What are we doing next? Teams at this stage are not particularly good at self-organizing. So they need that structure in order to know what's expected and what steps to take. And leaders at this stage, it's about facilitating open discussion, helping people understand, okay, what are the goals? What are our norms here? What are our different roles? So creating lots of clarity. And then as we sort of get to the edge of this stage, moving into the next stage of stage two, is when members start to, go back. Because just that last point, when members begin to demand more participation in running the group, leaders slowly begin to empower them. So the sort of the transition from stage one into stage two, and now we can click to the next slide, is that in that transition, members will start to want to influence even more. They'll start to challenge, and then the leader's role is to create space to allow them to take a step in. So then we move into stage two, and that's called counterdependency and fight. And this is the conflict stage. This is the one that in some ways, I think, many people would like to try to avoid or ignore or skip over, but it's not so easy, because what you'll almost always see in some form or another is that when moving through that stage one, that what will start to happen is team members will start to want to influence. They'll try to show themselves, free themselves from dependency on a leader, openly start to challenge the leader or challenge other members of the group. You see subgrouping. So in order to sort of find some safety and find some even influence, you start to see subgroups forming. Maybe a dip in team spirit as sort of conflict starts to come out into the open. Attempts to convince others, really assert my influence. And maybe running away, maybe people running to irrelevant work. Again, not really getting much meaningful work done here, because we're so focused on sorting out the influence and power and relationships. Yes, and so again, not something that is easy to avoid. I think it's a nice idea that maybe we could have harmonious teams that don't need to go through conflict. But Susan Whelan would say this is a stage that actually teams need to go through. And when we talk about the third stage, we'll see that the second stage is actually a super constructive, important, strengthening part of a group development journey. But what kind of leadership do we then need? So if we go to the next slide, what do leaders need to do in when shit hits the fan and when it becomes stormy and conflicting in a group? That could be, for some, one of the toughest stages. For some, they love that stage because they get to really sort of excited about going into a storm. But the role of the leader in the second stage, and if maybe you recognize this from a team that you've been part of, is to normalize conflict and create a healthy space for it rather than suppressing it. So the most important rule of thumb really is to allow it to be, rather than trying to put the lid on and avoid or suppress or push it away, because that will generally only send a team backwards into stage one. So it's about helping a group to resolve conflicts around the things that are going to be constructive. So conflicts about goals, roles, leadership, norms, values, all of that sort of thing, to continue to provide structure and space for teams to have constructive discussions, to untangle different assumptions, miscommunications, needs, and to increasingly empower and give influence. So allow members to have influence over the group and to have a say, rather than suppressing that. And not trying to not take attacks or challenges personally, or be sort of reactive and retaliating, because that again would just generally perpetuate conflict, even sort of serve to push it down and regress a group maybe even back to stage one. And I might pause and just invite if Louise or Ines, if you have anything that you would want to add to that, or if I just crack on to the third stage.
Mm-hmm. I think when I was listening to you, definitely, for me, it's very important in stage 2 to not take things personally. When you said that, I was like nodding like this, because it's very common in leaders that we have coached or leaders that we have worked with, because we're all humans, to take things like, oh, did I do something wrong, or is this person against me, or so. Really taking a step back and understanding that is the team dealing with, okay, now they're there to be themselves, now they're there to actually express what they think. So try and shift your mindset to a positive one, will help your team develop. That's my comment.
Yeah.
Do you have some?
I was thinking about FIRO also, that we have also in this learning kit, to connect it to the human need to actually have an influence, and to see that it's a good thing, though it can be so hard to live through a stage 2 team. That is really, really difficult, but to kind of have that, this is actually about a good thing, and it's not possible to skip it either. And then I was also thinking about ways to get past it is really about to communicate through it. You can fight or you can question yourself through it, but the best way is to actually communicate, or a way to
visualize it, not put a lead, and also to like normalize it. I think see it as a positive sign. That's something that really changes the atmosphere in a team. That's on our side.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely, great builds, and I think I super relate to the last thing you said. I think for me, the biggest insight and the thing that sort of helped me the most has been that idea of normalizing and expecting conflict and treating it as something healthy and oh, okay, stage 2 has arrived, right? Something that you expect to come, rather than something that feels like a crisis and something really scary when it shows up. Okay, so then what comes next if we go on to stage 3? Stage 3 is called trust and structure. And what does this stage look like? Well, this is the stage which is really about emerging on the other side of the conflict stage. So this is where I almost think of it as like an exhale that happens in the team, where we've successfully worked through conflict and differences, and that has sort of given way, that has produced a feeling of higher trust and is like infused an energy into the team. And what that does is it means that we've spent stage 1 and stage 2 have been a lot about relationships, right? Sort of the sort of tentative sorting out of, am I safe here, in stage 1, the conflict in stage 2, and in stage 3, when that sort of higher trust is established, the focus on objectives and tasks and work can increase. And that doesn't mean that there won't still be friction and still be conflicts, but they are handled more as they arise. And the team, because they have a greater awareness of each other, a better sense of who's here and what's our different styles and what are our different perspectives, conflicts can be more effectively handled on the go. And you see teams in this stage sort of having a strong group identity. So coming out the other side of that conflict often gives way to a we're the best feeling. We're so good. We're invincible. So can be a lot of, we want to be together, seeking consensus because we really, are feeling a strong sense of team identity. And taken to the extreme, the overdone strength of that can be that, you can even see belittling of other teams. So, we're the best in contrast to defining ourselves in contrast maybe to other teams. Oh, we're the best. We're better than those folks, or better than that team. So generally a stage where the pace is picking up, the focus on work is increasing, effectiveness is increasing, but you can still get some of that clubbiness and some of that sort of insular, get a little bit of a bubble thing going sometimes. So what does the role of a leader in that stage? So the leader in this stage can shift a little bit, can do a bit of a transition to doing more delegating of responsibilities, encouraging members to take on even more ownership and responsibility. So the leader shifting from a more structure giving and a more directive approach to a more facilitative approach, really shifting the responsibility, allowing the team to become that much more kind of self-organizing, encouraging efforts to kind of change things that get in the way. So the leader kind of helping to remove barriers and just allow the team to go. To continue to bring in structure where needed. So being really observant and finding out, okay, where does the team maybe need some structure? And challenging and coaching the team forward. So, if the team is decided that they're the best, maybe it's up to the leader to see, okay, where does this team actually still need to be pushed to take, to progress further? How can we also continue to make sure we look beyond ourselves and not get too much inside a bubble of our sense of team? And I see a question popping up from Lars, and maybe we'll just pick it up because I think it's maybe good to just take it in the moment.
Go ahead.
Lars, you're asking about how this is applicable when adding new team members to existing teams that's been working together for a long time. And that's a super good question because, of course, teams rarely stay static forever. It's super common that teams will get new members, people will leave, people will come in, and the reality is that every member that leaves and every member that joins is in some way a reset for the team. Right? In some way, the team has to kind of go through the stages again, because that, especially when a new person coming in, that person is going to be coming in with a stage 1 approach. The existing members of the team will need to get to know that person. And so you do have a new dynamic. Now, that's not to say that it's going to take the same amount of time for a team to move back up the steps. But it is useful to think about when a new member comes in, okay, to think about what do we need to do to make sure that the team can reestablish that sense of safety, reestablish the awareness of each other, and to consider that in a way the team is probably going through some version of the steps from the beginning over again. Even if maybe that's something, especially if the team has a strong culture, that's something that maybe can happen quite quickly. A new member can be brought into the fold and sort of onboarded into the team quickly. Shall we crack on to stage 4 and
Let's go.
Yeah, and then and if there are more questions, please keep them coming, and we'll come back to them after we do stage 4 and 5. So the stage 4 is this is sort of the super effectiveness stage. This is called performance and productivity. Teams are collaborating super effectively. Most of their energy is going into the work and the goals. We're not needing to spend that much time sorting out relationships or matters of influence. Tasks are taken as sort of collective responsibility. So teams are very flexible and are able to sort of know where to fill in gaps, where to support each other, where to adapt to new needs or surprises that might occur. Conflict is perceived as normal and valuable, and it's still probably going to keep happening, but it's something that can be handled really effectively. Feedback is something that is openly sort of given and received, because there's that high layer of awareness and trust. And just that. So in this stage, teams can work well together, and they can work really effectively because they have a super high level of trust, safety, and openness with each other. So there's a lot less that sort of lurks under the surface that might get in the way of getting the work done, because stuff that needs to be dealt with can be brought out into the open and dealt with. So then you might ask, what does a leader need to do at this stage? And again, it's sort of a continuation of the leader role in stage 3, where it's about encouraging and empowering the team to take more self-management. So almost becoming a facilitator, rather than a manager, sort of offering facilitation and coaching, but really letting the team shine in their strengths. Participating, even sort of becoming an expert member of the team. Maybe in this stage, you might look at a team and you might say, hard to tell who the formal leader is because they seem to be working so well together as a collective. And then, of course, continuing to kind of monitor progress, to gather external feedback, often being a liaison or a link to a larger organization or to other teams. But in this stage, really kind of moving into that coaching role and facilitating the team to continue to be highly effective. And then there's one more, and it's a sort of a stage, which is not a stage, but it's an important sort of aspect when thinking about how groups develop, because the natural endpoint of group development is that the team ends its existence as a team at some point. So when a project finishes, or the team is shuffled around into a new constellation, it's really important to consider and to think about that team members, that human beings, that we need a sense of closure. We need time an opportunity to give and receive feedback, to sort of express and get that receipt from others. And it's normal. What we could see at this stage is that as we get toward maybe the end of a project or the end of a process together, that teams could even start to revert back to lower stages. So, experiencing a sense of loss or wanting to protect myself because I know that, I'm going to check out early because I know this is kind of coming to an end. So you could see some surprising behaviors sometimes in this stage as you near determination, because we get those natural human reactions to separation or loss of something that we care about. So then, what's really important for a leader at this stage is to make sure to not forget. I think the pitfall here, is what's so often forgotten, is to really spend time to carve out and protect and facilitate the time to have evaluation, reflection, feedback, celebration, and things that will create a sense of closure. And then also on top of that, making sure that the learning and the wisdom that's been generated, the collective intelligence in that team, is also somehow taken forward. That will often be on a more practical level, documentation or whatever it may be. So making sure that the collective wisdom of that team is taken forward. Mm-hmm. Right. So those are 5 stages, and the characteristics and qualities, and also the different types of leadership that are the most supportive at the different stages. So I see there are a couple of questions popping up, and maybe if I hand back to you, Ines, if you want to kind of moderate, we can have a discussion, the 3 of us, in responding to some questions or perspectives.
Yeah. For technical reasons, I would need to exit the full screen. So you might see a little bit that I'm going to stop sharing for this session.
Yeah.
Close the share. And now you can see us, isn't it?
Yeah.
Cool. So you took already Lars' question about the new team member, but we have here by Charlie, in stage 3, there is the idea to seek consensus solutions. How do you avoid weak consensus, which usually arise because of respecting everyone's opinion instead of actual efficiency of the solution? This is what is commonly known as the think tank, or getting the peer pressure to decide instead of the real collective intelligence.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I would say so two things, and then please, Louise and Ines as well. Love to hear your perspective. So in that stage 3 slide, seek consensus was more of something that is something that you tend to see in a stage 3 team, not necessarily a guideline that stage 3 teams should always seek consensus, right? Different types of teams and different cultures of teams will, you could have different approaches to how decisions are made. But the idea there was that teams in stage 3, because there's a strong sense of team, will often sort of have a consensus oriented approach. But then to sort of come to your question of how do you avoid weak consensus, I think that in one thing that you would sometimes see is that behavior that you're talking about, right? Everybody just respecting each other's opinion instead of actually efficiency of the solution. That can be a signal of a group that is actually in stage 1. Even if they might perceive themselves to be more mature than that. Because if what's happening is there's not enough safety and trust in the group for people to express their opinion, because maybe they fear how it will be received, they're not sure if it's okay to express their opinion, they are not sure if it'll be accepted, whatever, all the different reasons, that would be a signal of a group that's displaying more tendencies of that first stage, where we're not really willing to focus on the best possible solution. Right? A stage 3 team would be more likely to be at a stage where everybody feels comfortable enough to get in there, share their opinion. They know how that's probably going to be received, and there's enough safety. So I don't know that necessarily offers us, an answer to how do you avoid, but it might be a way to sort of interpret what a team needs and how to support the team in the way that they work together and make decisions.
What could the leader do in that stage? I'm thinking also, if you detect that there is not enough safety around topics for people to express and disagree what they would think, some ideas around what the leader would be encouraged to do.
Yeah.
Does anything come to your mind? Like if you notice that people are trying to still agree with each other and not really...
What I'm thinking, that in the stage, if it is actually stage 3 that we're talking about, to continue to cherish the tools, what the group has actually learned already, to continue with feedback and to talk about expectations and to talk about the culture, and to create that. It's not, I mean, you can't say check on everything because you have dealt with it, but I think stage 3, and according to Susan Whelan, is about to still keep working with those tools in order to move on to a stage 4. So I think that the leader's role would be to address those things and to keep working on it, to address it. And I was thinking what you said, Alex, also on that the consensus is both the typical stage 1 and stage 3, but from different intentions. That, as you said, is it fear or is it care that is behind the need to have consensus, or the wish?
It's a symptom, but it comes from different places. Okay, so we have another question, a follow-up question by Charlie. Is there usually a sort of time frame in your experience for passing from a stage to another? Like after spending 2 hours in stage 1, then 2 hours in stage 2, then 5 hours in stage 3, and so forth.
Yeah,
He's guessing there's no perfect timing though.
Yeah, it's probably not a matter of hours, but days or weeks or months. So it's okay. It's important to say that this no model or theory is a complete representation of reality, right? This is a model that helps us interpret, it helps us understand, it helps us reflect, but it's not something that is objectively true. And in reality, it's always going to be messier than the model. But if you look at Susan Whelan's research, and her research comes from studying hundreds and thousands of teams across different cultures and industries and disciplines, and she talks in the scale of months, right? So teams working together over longer periods, going through these different stages for in weeks and months. And I don't know that there's more specific time boxes than that, right? Like one month in stage 1 and 1 month in stage 2. But it's a matter of longer periods. And that's not to say that teams within their first hours together might have flashes of different characteristics, right? So you could easily still have conflict in a team within the first hours of it being together. You could easily still have flashes of amazing productivity within a day. But if you take sort of the bigger zooming out perspective and see kind of the maturity of a team, it's generally maturing over a longer period of time.
And I would also like to add on that time per se doesn't do anything, but it's how do you use the time? What do you actually do? That matters a lot.
Yeah.
So thank you for the answers. Going to the next question, James, she's asking, in my experience, not everyone wants to be his own manager. I think it's important to recognize which team members, like the leader, more in control, and who wants more freedom or self-management. So something between stage 3 and 4. What do you think about that? Like the adaptability of the leader to the personal needs?
Yeah, I think that's such a great point, and that we talk in this model, and the way we talk now is so much the team perspective, and we haven't talked now about the more individual perspective and the needs that different individuals will have in teams, and that's equally important to consider. So I think it's a great reflection, and I think as leaders, it's really important to be aware of the different motivations, the different styles, personalities. One of the later modules in the course is going to touch on sort of diversity in teams and different sort of preferences, styles, motivational values, and there could be a lot of richness in exploring that question from how do we really understand the uniqueness of each individual and what different people need and how we can maximize different groups of people.
Definitely. Okay, we're going to take 2 more questions. Well, here's a reflection from Lars saying that in hackathons or like shorter events, he can actually observe teams moving from one stage to the other one throughout maybe 24 hours, 48 hours. Have you experienced that? I have actually experienced that.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. I think it does something to the team when they have a time frame and they know that they have a goal within 2 days. So that creates a container for them to progress safely, faster.
Totally. I often think about, like, I sort of have this picture in my mind of like, micro cycles and macro cycles, right? That I think I've also seen that, right, in facilitated processes, that you can see teams go through the flashes of all of those different stages in very short amount of time, often when they have, you know, great parameters, like you're saying, Ines, like they have a space and a safe environment to work in. But I think, you know, that's a small, that's maybe like a kind of micro journey for a team, and it's still some different from, you know, a team that would work together over months, developing, you know, the deeper aspects of their relationships, their ways of working, their awareness of each other, their understanding of each other's values, all of those things that are going to enable and enrich. So I think in a weird way, it can be both.
Cool. And that's for now. There is Charlie and James agreeing with Lars, having similar experiences. So should we move on? We have to give a time frame, 10 minutes left.
Yeah, exactly.
So should we move on to the
or some last words from Alex, maybe, on this?
Yeah, I can just sort of wrap up and hand back over to you. I think if you,
yeah, I'm coming. Some technical issues here. There we go.
So if it's just by way of wrapping up, if you just click to the final slide, a nice visual for this is this sort of pie image of these 5 stages, and you can think about like an inside track, right? So if you think about moving through very close to the circle of that center, that you could move through more quickly, or you could take an outside track if you're sort of near the outside of the circle, moving through more slowly. And I think it's so much up to leaders and the way that the leader sort of creates the space and the culture and the safety within a team that will determine whether you sort of move through the inside track or move through the outside track. So I guess I sort of leave you with that, and hand back over to you, to Louise and Ines to wrap it up.
Thank you very much, Alex. And what we would like you to do now is, as Alex was doing before, encouraging you to think about your personal or your daily life while going through this model. So quickly thinking or reflecting on what are the challenges you're facing right now regarding creating effective teams. And we're going to ask you to do that for the next minute in silence. And if you would like to share, we will take one challenge. So if someone wants to share, you can write it on the chat, and then we will hand over the microphone to you. Okay, so think about your challenges for the next minute, and if you would like to share, just write it on the chat. So if you have your challenge in mind or something that you would like to discuss with us and with Alex, you can write down on the chat box, and we will hand over the microphone. Not many challenges. Everybody's free of challenges. How to break out of the "we are the best" bubble without crashing down. And this is Jens. Okay, should we? I'm going to unmute you, and you can speak now. Hello, Jens.
Hi everyone.
How do you say your name, first of all?
Jinse.
Jinse.
Yeah, Jinse. Yeah, hard name. Yeah, this is the one thing that came to mind now. There are more challenges, of course, but relating to this topic, we had a very good evaluation with our team. We have been evaluated a whole year almost. So, and we had a very positive vibe afterwards. So I've just had my evaluation talk with my boss, and I said, we are the best. So I recognize that bubble, and we're all thrilled and happy. But as a team leader, I'm also concerned. This feeling is great, but how to move to the next stage without, and looking beyond that bubble. I find that hard at this moment because everybody's really happy. So I don't want to be the party crasher that says, well, yeah, okay, we are the best, but this and this and this and this. I'm looking for a balance. There are tools to do that.
What a great question.
Alex,
would you like to take it, Alex? Would you like us?
Sure. I have, I mean, I have a perspective at least, which is the thing that comes to mind. I also recognize that, thinking I can recognize that from like the teams that I've been in. And what comes to mind for me is the question of how can the team seek out and get some feedback. How is, because there's the internal perspective of the team, right? How do we perceive ourselves? But how could the team get a sense of how are we perceived by the others that, that we work with, that we are in service to, or that we are supporting, or that are supporting us? And so, maybe without having a specific exercise to offer you, thinking about how could the team reach out and ask your peers, your peer teams or individuals or customers, even what do we do well? What could we do better, differently? How could we be better support, be better in service, or whatever those questions might be? You need to figure them out. But I think I would think that feedback to a team would be one of the ways that you would give that challenge to get an outside perspective and be able to then work from that.
Great. I think I have another one, and it's usually referring back to the vision or purpose of the team. So connecting it back to all that positive energy to actually, so what is our vision? Are we in a mission to create la 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 la? We're here to do la 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 la. So try and connect it back to what is our mission as a team. To
setting new goals, like maybe.
Setting new goals, connecting to the original purpose, so channel that positive energy towards future direction, to the future vision. That I've seen quite useful.
And encourage, as you say, them to work on something together, to use that. Now they are really focused on working well together and are done with the relationships and building trust and all this. Now they can really work, and to encourage that, to give like
new goals, new challenges. That's actually one of the roles of the leader in the stage, stage 4. You're kind of the visionary, and you just scoping around. You're hunting for new challenges for your team because they are so well functioning that you just keep looking for what is next for them.
And according to Susan Whelan also, I think I said that previously also, that the time spent in stage 3 can be quite short. The journey, the heavy journey, but to move into stage 4. The tough journey is in stage 1 and 2, when it's actually a group really working on those to solve those things that you have to solve. But when you enter stage 3 and start to work and keep doing that good work, you can quite quickly move to stage 4. So encourage collaboration and work together.
Thank you very much for sharing your challenge. And we're going to go back a little bit. We're going to thank Alex. Thank you very much for being today with us.
Thanks.
Thank you for all the insights. And I'm going to take it back to our presentation so we can go to the more general information about the course. I'm going to resume share. And there we go. This is what, when you went to the
learning kit.
Yes.
Yes.
You take it, Luis. You know what it is.
No, I'm just supporting. but this could be just an idea of how to spend a week in this online course. It's nothing that you have to do or so, but for some of you, maybe it could be a structure that can support that. We will post the new module and the kit for that new module every Sunday. And then, so on Monday to read it through, and then we do encourage that you actually do plan for workshops if it's possible. I mean, and if you can do 1 or 2 workshops a week, it will be great. If not, it's still great. And then on every Tuesday, we will have those webinars where
on Wednesday, we are going to, this is what I was referring about before. We're going to ask you for questions that you might want to ask the guest on the day after. So we can bring them to the guest beforehand and he or she can prepare for it.
Yeah.
Then on Thursday,
thank you. On Thursday, webinars like this. And then we really encourage you to write the reflections and post them, and by latest Sunday, and post them in your learning group, so that there we can really get the sharing going on and to read one another's reflections. So that's a broad overview of how this could work. And on that note, we do have a few workshops that we suggest for this week. And I mean, if you don't think it's useful or you have something else, just dig into the workshop library and then you can find something else. But very, very shortly, the history map could be something for a team that is about to end. If you're splitting up and it's soon over, it could be a useful workshop.
To gather learnings and...
Yes, and to have a closure and dealing with stage 5 that Alex was talking about. And the team purpose and culture could be really, really good for a team that is starting up to talk about those things. And team self-assessment could be something for a team that needs to actually talk about where are we at as a team, what are the challenges, where are our strengths, and it could be a team that has been working for a while but needs to review and to talk about what's going on. Project point of departure is very useful. Yeah, it sounds like a project tool in order to have a good takeoff with the project. Personal presentations, very useful in a stage 1 or in a team where you do need to work on building trust. It's about getting to know one another in order to create safety. And the last one, team remote working starter, is also about, I mean, to address that if you're not working at the same place, but it's a tool to think about and to talk about culture in the digital world, to agree on how are we going to behave and that kind of thing. It's a support. So you can use this and find others.
I really encourage the workshops. We say at Hyper Island that the best learning is the experience-based learning. We can read a lot of books, we can look into a lot of theories, but when you actually practice what we say, then is when you get the most learnings. You understand what happens to you. What do I need to do more of? What is it that is missing? So I think it's a key part of making the most of this course. Tips for getting started, Luis?
Yeah, I mean, I don't have to read this. You can read this also, but it could be something to think about. Is your team willing to do this, or are you dealing with resistance and so? And yeah, I think you can do this.
And if you have questions, you can always ping us on Slack. We're there to support you.
Yes.
If you're thinking about doing a workshop, we can support you on it. And very quickly, we are out of time. So I will just go tips for making the most of this course. We're going to share with you a tool to create your profile picture with the Hyper Island logo. You can use this picture wherever you want on your social media. You don't have to limit to Slack. And I will share it with you today on the channel announcements, so you can use it. Another thing about communication on Slack is to use the reactions. You're really good at it already. We have this just in case, but we can see that you're already quite active on this. It's a way of making each other heard and feel listened. Then make use of the threads function as well. So when you're replying to a message, you can see that icon there of little speak bubble, and that will just create a reply immediately to the message. It helps keep the conversation tidy and neat. Don't be shy, participate, go for it. I mean, we're here to learn from each other. So if you have doubts, if you have questions, if you have realizations or aha moments, please share with us. Make the reflection journal something valuable, an experience that is valuable for you. This is a very good point. It's not for us, this is for you. We just think that it's a nice way of containing your learnings, but this is your development diary. So use it for yourself, with yourself. And then workshops, adapt them and make them your own, as Luis was saying. Okay, I think we still have someone unmute. There we go. Yes, if you ever run workshops, please share the pictures to encourage each other.
If you ever, you mean when you do run your workshops?
Yes, when you do it. Thank you, Luis. When you do it, share pictures. It's a really nice way of encouraging each other, but also to build in a case study for yourself. Running workshops is one of the most wanted skills in the creative industry at the moment. We just had a conversation with 70 professionals in a forum a couple of months ago, and that's the skill that is most wanted nowadays. So don't miss this opportunity to start developing that. And when in doubt, just ask. We are here, Luis and I. We don't work from 9 to 5, so sometimes you might get a reply the day after or maybe a little bit later, but we are here and we're keeping track.
Ask one another as well. There's so much competence in this group of participants.
Especially, definitely, especially if they are teaming up or you're going to do the same workshop at the same time. Support each other. Maybe you can plan together. And a few reminders for the next of the week. Complete your reflection journal by Sunday. We, Luis and I, will go into it and try to give you some perspectives and tips. Take advantage of your learning groups. Definitely consult with them and share from any workshops you run. We want to...
All the workshops.
All the workshops. So we can learn from each other and encourage each other to do this. And that was it on our side. Thank you very much. And see you on Slack and see you for the next webinar.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye and thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.